Monsieur Ling.
Madam, few things in life are certain: birth, death, and change. Yet, with all three come much uncertainty for the Singaporean worker. With today's reading of the Child Development Co-Savings Bill, we welcome amendments that safeguard the interests of workers and families alike. Particularly, we welcome the introduction of benefit schemes for contract workers and the sensible expansion of benefits even to parents of stillborn children. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, when a child is due, a child is due. We cannot tell baby to wait for her parents' economic conditions to make a turn for better, or for mom and dad to be placed with a permanent job. That is why we are encouraged by the government's consideration of parents on short-term contracts as seen in the government-paid maternal benefit. And so we celebrate its extension to fathers and adoptive mothers as well. This signals that the government recognizes the biodiversity of livelihoods within our ecosystem of workers and that alternative forms of livelihoods, such as contract workers, deserve to be weatherproofed just as permanent employees are. Not only should all workers be protected equally, so should all parents. Some believe that parenting begins when a child is born, but I believe that parenthood begins in pregnancy, when your pregnancy home kit test first signals that you are positive, when you hear your child's first heartbeat, when you take your first ultrasound picture of your child. For a couple, there are so much expectations, so much preparation up to the due date. For most parents, this due date is a joyous occasion, while for some, a profound pain envelops their expectant hearts. I'm referring to parents of stillborn children. Indeed, there is a physical healing process still for the mother to go through, but deeper and more unique to such couples is the emotional healing process, as other members of this House have talked about. Grieving, accepting, and moving on from such a tragedy requires plenty of space and time. These birth-linked leave and benefits are thus appropriately and necessarily conferred to these couples who are very much parents in their own rights. As we celebrate the sensible considerations undergirding the amendments in this bill that will move us towards more equitable outcomes for family, it is actually of paramount importance that we recall the spirit of the legislation at hand, that is to support family in having more children. While on paper, much of the legislation revolves around financial provision for parents, these measures shape cultural norms, whether we like it or not. In particular, I am referring to the way the burden of parenting is shouldered by couples. Madam Deputy Speaker, more must be done to even out the weight of parenting between couples. However, I'd like to preface by saying that this is not a call to point fingers, nor a call out, but rather an invitation to share in the joys of parenting. When fathers do not pull their weight in parenting, both miss out on the joys of parenting. Fathers from absence or distance, and mothers from tiredness or burnout. However, when both parents are well involved, both share the responsibilities of parenthood, and together, the shared responsibilities come joy. This invitation rides on the low take-up rates of paternity leave, especially in the private sector. Although we may feel our take-up rates are strong against international standards, the actual benchmark for strong take-up rates should instead be compared to the take-up rates of maternity leave at home. Anything less than equal, and we still have work to do. This, once again, is not to point fingers at fathers. Most dads do want to spend time with their kids, and many of my residents who are fathers have expressed joy with how much easier this has become since they have been working from home. We need to pick up our fight with what lies deeper: workplace cultures embedded in our society. While no employers are hanging signs on office walls discouraging fathers from taking paternity leave, many fathers might feel the threat of being implicitly penalized for taking days off to care for their children. Perhaps some employers think that this could be rightfully and naturally left to their spouses, or even see the usage of paternity leave as unnecessary, or worse still, opportunistic. Hence, it is no longer enough that employers merely provide opportunities for fathers taking paternity leave or other benefits, especially when fathers might be left second-guessing the cost incurred to their careers. Instead, employers should go a step further to actively encourage fathers to take days off to care for their family, especially in the form of their paternity leave days. This is the kind of assurance that is sure to drive the pickup rates of paternity leave usage. This shift will not come easily, but to break off the old mindset, new approaches must be embraced. Therefore, we call on the government to incentivize employers on this front, to be champions of equal parenting roles, and so champions of strong families and children. An example could be expanding the working mother's child relief and grandparent caregiving relief to working fathers. By availing incentivization schemes to both mothers and fathers, this would reflect the better sharing of parental duties, reinforce the positive communications, and indeed rise the visibility to the important role males play in parenting and indeed caregiving. To go a step further, I draw on two recommendations our Women's Wing and our Young PAP have formulated. Firstly, we call on the government to give parents full flexibility in deciding how to share their maternity and paternity leave. This flexible redistribution of the total maternity and paternity leave entitlement pie does not create additional burden to employers who are facing manpower shortages and yet places choice and full control in the hands of the parents. Secondly, we call on the government to create a support network for single mothers. As I mentioned, not only should all workers be treated fairly, so should all parents. This is not an entirely new call. In 2013, the labour movement had called for equal benefits for single mothers, and as a result, we now see unwed mothers entitled to the same maternity leave, childcare, and infant care leave, as well as the enjoyment of CDCA benefits. We will continue to stand with single mothers and not compound the burden of having to raise a child single-handedly. These make up just 2 of our 12 robust and highly actionable recommendations. We too delight in good ideas, but our delight is made complete in ideas that birth action, rather than just laundry lists that are strong on paper, but often remain only on paper. The labour movement's continued ability to weave idealism and activation has been a cornerstone for women's consistent elevation in the workforce, and we submit these calls to the government as we march forward in a fruitful partnership. Stronger families start with healthier parents, and healthier parents are those who shoulder each other's burdens willingly and joyfully. As we gather to debate the Child Development Co-Savings Bill, our considerations must not only be on how the government can help parents, but how the government can help parents help each other as well. This is what a strong family starts with. These concerns notwithstanding, I support the bill. Thank you.
Order. I propose to take a break now. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair at 4:31. Order, order.